I hope you've been tuning in and listening to this series that we've been looking at major things in your life that go after control. If you're like, I'm a control freak, right? I love control. If that's you, but maybe you've missed some of these weeks that we've talked about, what's kind of grabbing for our control. I want to review. Let's review together. And if you missed any of this, by the way, you can go find it and you can watch it and all that. But here, if eternity versus the temporary, if the temporary has like your brain right now, trying to make you like, I want to be in control. I feel like I don't have control in the midst of all that's going on. We talked about how to wrestle with that. Margin, if you have no margin, no time, you feel like crazy out of control. If you don't have the character to withstand life, if right now you're trying to hide secrets, right? If you've got things that are private and you're working hard that no one finds out, and that can make life just feel flat out out of control. Relationships, if you have no community, if you don't have the people in your life that are encouraging you and challenging you, well, then it's hard to feel like you have any control in life because you don't have the people there to support and sharpen and sometimes even carry you. We talked about how just flat out waiting for life to play out or waiting for an answer on something can make you feel out of control. This list is incomplete. You know this, we've talked a lot about this there's 6. According to the Bible, according to God himself, according to psychologists, according to, if you just think about it, there's one more remaining thing that can be so divisive because of how it makes us feel like we're in control. It makes us feel like we've got something, or the opposite. If you don't have it in your life, you feel like you have no control. It's been proven to divide marriages, to tear apart families and disagreements. It's proven to keep us up late at night. It's proven to cause much, much, much strain. Money. According to all of the professionals, according to God himself, that the conversation about money and finances and do we have it or do we not have it makes us feel in control or sometimes out of control. And what a time in the midst of a pandemic where, come on, I know some of us have lost our jobs, right? Us, our family, right? Maybe you don't have the same hours that you had. Maybe your pay got decreased. Maybe if you're a business owner, the profits are not looking like what they used to look or what you projected. Maybe you had money put into something and the investments just imploded. Or maybe not even around this pandemic, you just have always struggled with money in the sense of it being in complete control. I remember, let me tell you a story. When I was a kid, I won a gift card. And the gift card was to Toys R Us. Now, let me help you understand. See, some of us are like, Toys R Us, what is that? What is that, David? I don't know what Toys R Us is. Well, here. Toys R Us, as a child, was where God lived. I mean, it was heaven. It was the greatest place. It was, if you couldn't afford to go to Disney World, you could at least afford to walk around Toys R Us. I won a gift card to Toys R Us. And I remember as a kid, I got this gift card. I think it might have been for maybe $50. I don't even remember. It's $50. But I remember walking into Toys R Us and feeling this sense of absolute, I am in control. Like where it was like, you know what? I own this store. I own the store. I remember going in. I'm just a little kid. But I had this gift card, and I was going in. My dad was with me, and we were gonna pick what I could buy with the gift card. I remember walking in and seeing the employees basically going, "Yeah, I mean, you pretty much work for me. I'm in control. Like this is my place now." And I walked in and went aisle by aisle by aisle by aisle, and I finally found what I wanted. It was this cool racetrack thing, and I remember feeling like well, I can tell you now. I can reflect back. Just think about that. I'm not a little kid anymore. I remember the moment. I can visualize walking down the aisles. I felt like life was right, in control. I'd love to tell you that I grew out of that idea that if I had enough money or money for things that I wanted, that life seemed right and good and sustainable. But I got to tell you, even as an adult, I still wrestle with that, and I think you might too, where where if it's good financially, you're like, we're good. All things are good. If it's tight financially, if something breaks, and you're like, I don't know how to, do you see what it begins to do to us? Where we begin, based on the amount of money in our accounts, based on how well everything is working in our homes, how well our cars go, we begin to think we're in control based on how all that is. At the beginning of the series, I shared a verse with you. Let me read this to you just again. Don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven where moths and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. We talked about this. We talked about it. And I don't want to belabor this. Now, what I want to show you is about 60 seconds later, Jesus says something else. No one can serve two masters. For you will hate one and love the other. If you ever had this at work, you're like, yep. For you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. I want to talk to you about this word, because as you and I read this word, we're not getting the full glimpse of what this means. You can't serve God and money. Well, let me show you the original word that's actually there. Mammon. Mamonas, not mamoas, by the way. But this word here, it's talking about wealth, riches, and money. But let's go further than this. In ancient days, the Assyrians had what's called a spirit. They had this thing, this person that they worshipped, the spirit of Mammon. It was this, they worshiped this idea that if you worship this entity, that you would have all that you would ever need, wealth, riches, not just dollars, not just numbers, but that everything around you, resource-wise, would work and you would have all that you would ever dream of. Mammon, it's a spirit. Now, I want you to pay attention to what Jesus is saying. He's bringing up that you and I can actually be loyal to someone other than him, to something that promises riches and money. Now, here's the thing. Come on. At least a lot of us have grown up in a setting where when we talk about money, we get offended. Maybe you already are right now. You're like, oh, I bet this is a sermon where the pastor's going to say, hey, I got to give him money. No. We're talking about what makes us feel in control. And some of us have already looked in. Yep, see, that's why. All rich people, they're bad, right? That's what some of us think. That's what, maybe you're raised that way. Maybe that's your political stance, that you're like, rich is bad. And I want to bring up something that I think is important here. God doesn't have a problem with people having money. This can seem so basic, but it's not. I think when you and I are building who's truly in control in life, we begin to throw things out that I'm not sure we fully mean. Let me show you just one example in the Bible. Abram, you might know him as Abraham. Later on, God changes his name. But God loves this guy, even establishes a covenant with him, a major promise with him. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. So just for a second, if you read the Bible, and test me on this, by all means, go read the Bible and read all about this, where you're going to see how much God supports Abram, encourages Abram, leads Abram, all the while he's rich. I think it's important to have this conversation where we acknowledge that God doesn't hate rich people. God isn't against money. Some of us even misquote a verse in the Bible where we say the root of all evil is money. No, it's not. It's the love of it. And that's why I would change the words here. God has a problem with money having people, not people having money. I'm not trying to be tone deaf by doing a sermon on money in the midst of a pandemic. Actually, the opposite. One of my major concerns right now is that you and I won't talk about what we should talk about. And that's that if our jobs aren't paying what they should, or we got laid off, or whatever you're doing financially, is that we won't talk about it even though it's eating at us. And here's what God is saying. Here's what Jesus laid out here. Now, it's very possible for money to rule your life instead of God. It's so possible to be loyal, listen, to whatever's in your bank account, whatever's running correctly, whatever isn't broken. And maybe in this pandemic, you and I shouldn't be afraid to talk about this. It's possible for money to rule your life, for you and I to be loyal to this spirit of mammon. It's dangerous. I don't think that's what you want. In fact, let's take apart this verse again. Let's go back. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. You can't serve God and money, but you cannot. Like, pay attention to what he's saying. He's saying you can't. Listen, how does it feel if I said, you can't go outside. You can't do whatever. Think about what you want to do right now. Just think right now, but just for a second. You can even, right now, you can put it in the comments. What's one thing you want to do right now? If you're watching on TV, just tell someone nearby. But what you want right now, just one thing, if you just could do it. And now I'm going to tell you can't. How's that feel? All warm and fuzzy? No. Sounds miserable. But Jesus just said it. You cannot serve God as your provider and also treat someone else or something else like it's your provider. If you'll give me freedom, I'd like to take some right now. Here's what's being said in the Bible. God isn't a side hustle. Now, okay. If side hustle would be like this extra, this not everything, not sold, not number one, just like this extra thing. And nowadays, maybe some of you right now, your side hustle isn't doing so hot in the midst of all that's going on. God isn't a side hustle. When you look at, okay, what's given me a sense of peace in life, and what's helping me live life and enjoy life and thrive in life, what Jesus brings up and puts on the table. If you're new to the Bible, you're like, you're reading these verses about mammon and this other language and what's going on. Here's what he's saying. God isn't a side hustle. He's not an alternative source of revenue. He's not like, well, I'm going to take care of the main stuff, and if anything extra comes in, I'm just going to say, oh, look, God blessed me, #blessed. No. God is the number one provider, your number one provider. God is your source of whatever you need. In fact, many times we think about only God provides, and we lump it into the blessing part in the sense of the extra, or what we didn't expect, or what we were hoping for, but we didn't plan on it, where you and I treat ourselves as, hey, I'm my provider, I go to my job. But listen, if you're breathing, that's a blessing. And if you right now say, I am a follower of Jesus Christ, I am a Christian, I am all about God, let me bring up something that Jesus actually already brought up. God isn't a side hustle. And when it comes to money and finances and wealth and riches and just provision in general, stop treating God like he's maybe extra and you'll go to him maybe if you're desperate. No, he's your number one provider. I think one of the core lessons in this is for us to lean into that. I'm not trying to be insensitive about talking about money, but I think it's where you and I are at. God isn't a side hustle. So let me lead us with a question here. So how do I live? How do I live like God is my provider? Like, how do I even live that way? Because we can say, well, it says that in the Bible, okay, so, okay, we know God created all, he started all, okay, we know that, but can we just admit, come on, I'll admit it for us. Sometimes it's difficult to take what you believe and transfer it over to actual real life decision making, to your behavior. So how do I do that? Well, in short, here, learn God's rhythm. Rhythm is a big, big deal. I want to invite my son to come help us with that. And as he comes up, if you've ever learned an instrument of any sort, oftentimes the teacher is going to bring up what's called a metronome. Here. Yep. Is that sparking a little bit of, yeah. You getting annoyed yet? The design of this is that especially as a new musician, but as you're learning, that you would follow a certain rhythm. You don't get to determine the rhythm, or it's going to sound maybe horrific. It's that you would follow the right rhythm. And many of us, as we're learning and living life, especially when it comes to money, we're trying to figure out like different rhythms. And I think this is a good lesson. So my son, our son Hayden, he's our oldest. He one day, and I've shared this many times, he wanted to learn how to play drums. And so he's had a couple of drum teachers, and they would talk about how we need to basically apply the metronome and teach the rhythm so that it doesn't sound like just a bunch of drums being hit at random times. And so Hayden has, when he plays drums in his ears, as he's learned, what we call a click track. He's got earbuds in his ears, and he's got a click track, and he's listening to a beat that's keeping him on beat. In fact, here, let's have some fun. Come on. Let's take a little information break, and let's just enjoy. Hayden, I'm going to give you space. Drum away, my son. Drum away. Well done, well done. Thank you, man. Proud of you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to sit down at the drums. I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm not going to sit down at the drums at all because it wouldn't sound like that. See, what Hayden has learned is that there is a rhythm, there is a pace that if he were to adopt that and put that into his ears, he can make certain decisions at the right time. You need to learn God's rhythm when it comes to money. Maybe no one's ever taught it to you. But before I share it with you, because maybe you do know it, maybe you've never heard, okay, so if I don't want money to be in control of my life, if I want to have peace no matter what's in my bank account or not, like how do I play this out? How do I learn God's rhythm? Well, let me show you the normal rhythm that God doesn't teach it. Here, this is it. This is what we do first. First, you spend. You just maybe call it bills or wants or whatever. But the first thing you do with a paycheck is you start to slide it off to landlord or mortgage, groceries, JR's barbecue, Amazon, okay. Anyways, so you just spend first. And this is normal rhythm. This is normal. This is what commercials will teach you. This is what society will teach you. This might even be what your friends or your parents modeled for you. I don't know. But first is you spend. Then if you have any extra, second, you plan for your future and you save a little bit. Just a little bit, but you save. And then if you have, after you've put some into savings, the last thing you do is you give to God. Remember, God said that we serve him or the spirit of mammon, one or the other. This is the normal rhythm. This is what we normally do. Now, I think it's important for me to share some basics with you. When it comes to how well we do rhythms, most of us don't get past the first. In fact, here's a statistic that is alarming, and from what I understand, this statistic is even pre-pandemic. 78% live paycheck to paycheck. Maybe that's you. I'm not hating on you at all. All I'm trying to show you is a little bit of proof that the majority of people don't even get past the first one into saving or giving. Then you can really nerd out for a while, and I can show you that most of us are struggling with giving to anything or anyone. Right now, if you don't have a job, If the income's not been what it should be, you're like, give? Are you kidding me? And save? And there's no way. I'm eating up my savings right now just to survive. I get it. But we as a church are leaning into what will the new look like? How will I live my life? I may have not lived my life as I should have, but how will I? And what's proven now is the majority of Americans, 7 out of 10, actually say they're great at giving. The IRS and what we report on our taxes indicate actually the opposite, that we aren't great. Here's the dangers of living this rhythm of life. Our spending is reckless. Our saving is absolutely random, like completely random. And giving is absolutely, incredibly just rare. Okay, I told you I would tell you God's rhythm of how to make sure that finances, money, the spirit of mammon doesn't rule your life, that God rules your life. How do you make sure that you are loyal to God and not the mortgage company kind of stuff? Like, how do you do that? Well, the Bible tells us, reverse the order. First, we give to God. Let me just so you know this isn't me, but honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. If you're new to this, first fruits, it's saying that the first, when you get a paycheck, when you make some money, even if a birthday card and a check comes, and the method, God's rhythm, it may not be maybe right now you're refuting this thing. No, God's rhythm is that the first thing you do with any money is that you give a portion of that back to him. That's the first thing. Before you go to the grocery store, before you pay your mortgage, before you do other things, I'm not getting legalistic with you. I'm just showing you a rhythm of life. This is what God's rhythm. He says this is the best rhythm so that you aren't living under the control of money. First is God. You give to God. Second, you save a little bit. Here, the wise have wealth and luxury, but fools spend whatever they get. They spend it all. And right now, some of you, I don't make enough to save. What if you didn't put numbers to it that were grand? What if this week you saved $1? I'm serious. I'm not joking. What if this week you saved $1? And then next week, maybe you save $2. If you'd like to, maybe after the message, Google this savings plan. It's brilliant, where each week you increase by $1. By the end of the year, you'll have over $1,000 emergency savings in your savings. This is God's rhythm. Give to him first, save, and then you know where I'm going. Last, then we deal with now. Wise people think before they act. Fools don't, and even brag about their foolishness. Wise people think before they act. Have you ever considered that? What if you and I had a budget that actually would map this out, and that we would decide where our money was going to go before we actually let the money go that way? Let me lean in, okay? What does this conversation about money and mammon really get after here? When we feel powerless, we compromise, don't we? I know I'm tempted to. When we feel powerless, and is it not the absence of income that can make you feel so extremely powerless? If that's where you are right now, if of all this whole list of 6 things that we as a church have leaned into, if money and resources, income and hours and investments and business plans, if you're just feeling absolutely, utterly powerless, you're in danger of compromising what you know is true. So I want to sum up the whole series and lean into I'll call it a revision. It's still true, but it's almost like a paraphrase of something the Bible says that helps us land somewhere very significantly. I'm baptizing you here in the river, turning your old life in for a kingdom life. Now, watch this. This is big. The real action comes next. The main character in this drama, remember this, the main character in this drama. Have you ever called life drama? I have. The main character in this drama, compared to him, I'm a mere stagehand. Will ignite the kingdom life within you, a fire within you, the Holy Spirit within you, changing you from the inside out, the main character. In this pandemic, who's been the main character in your life? Okay, now let's move forward. Who are you going to make the main character now? I urge you with everything I can, whatever has a fight against you trying to get control, let God be the main character. He's the best main character there is. Let me pray for us. Heavenly Father, we love you, and we ask, Lord, that you would lead us in this season. Lord, without hesitation, we bow before you and say you are the great provider. Lord, I pray specifically for those who have lost income, it's dwindled, it's gone